All right. So with that, I am so excited to bring on Ilker, who's a community builder and strategist. You can check out his website, noted there on the slide. He's done a ton of different exciting things in his career. He's previously worked at Google. He's managed programs, projects, and volunteers and communities while he was over there. He was also at Cisco before and the London Olympic Games. He's also one of Turkey's first community management and strategy experts who provides consultancy on contributions that communities can make to organizations. He's also the founder and co-host of the Istanbul chapter of CMX Connect, which is the leading global network for community professionals. And I believe that most of you here today are already part of the CMX community. If you're not, really encourage you after today to definitely join and keep the conversation going. So with that, Ilker, I'll hand it over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen and you can jump right in.
Fantastic, and hello everyone. So I hope my internet connection holds up because there's some story behind it. As Blake might be able to testify, I am doing a bit of a European driving tour, and I am in Barcelona right now, and I've been to many interesting places. And maybe perhaps as an addition to the icebreaker, I could just talk a little bit about the places that I've visited, and if anyone has already visited, they can just put their hands up. I've been to Lisbon, all the way in northern Spain. Basically to Porto, to southern Portugal, and now having done an entire Andalusian tour and Valencia, now I am in Barcelona, heading back to France this evening. So if anyone is joining from one of these locations, please say hi in the chat, and I'd love to pick your minds about what to do next. So in the meantime, let me try and share my screen here. And here we go. I think that should work. So this is the question of the year, I guess. Can everybody see my screen? And I sincerely hope that you do, and you are here, you're continuing to hearing me. Yes, fantastic. So this presentation is titled Under the Hood of a Developer Community. I'll try and make it as fun and as as exciting and entertaining as it can be. I mean, the communities are already like that anyway. So let me just dive straight in. So thank you, Marcia. It's always an absolute pleasure being here and being a part of one of Bevy's events. She's already told me a little bit about me, so just to complete, I did manage volunteers at London Olympic Games. People do work at London Olympic Games or any Olympic Games for that matter. There's one coming up in LA in 2028. It's not that far away. So if you're into volunteer management, if you would like to do something like once in a lifetime an experience, I would strongly encourage you to take part. Then I led the developer communities in Turkey, Central Asia, and the Caucasus for 2 years. And then I started the CMX Connect Istanbul chapter, and I have some wonderful co-hosts. And we do some really, really cool things, of course, backed by the wider CMX Connect community. And I've been running my own community management and strategy consultancy business here in Turkey, but I do serve clients worldwide. So I'm very happy to share what I have learned, especially in the Google Times. So what will we talk about today? Software development is a process, so we're just going to try and see if we can get into the mind of a developer, and nothing too technical or fancy. A little bit about developers and communities. I'm going to be talking about the developer community programs as a success story, and then basically share some of the things that I found to be contributing to that success. And basically some thoughts and tips for the developer community professionals or would-be professionals in this brave new world, and of course the Q&A. And we're going to try and to get to the Q&A as quick as possible, because I already saw some really cool questions flying in, and please keep them coming in. So Marcia loves this. This is basically a picture from 9gag. It's just engineers in natural habitat, as if they're like some creatures from a different world. Do not feed them and that sort of thing. Of course, there's a lot of jokes about engineering, a lot of jokes about coding. So perhaps this conversation we're having today is a little bit of a part of that, but the old companies are now becoming technical, outfits on their own. So every company is going to be a software company, now an artificial intelligence company, and so forth. So it's important to get into the mind of developing and basically to understand them. And of course, if you're managing the developer community, it's very important that you know well the stages of the development process, which we're going to start straight in. So we always, think about, coding as, someone with a computer in front of them, and they've been just creating this sort of magical things, a bit like an alchemy, like something that is out of this world. But to be honest with you, that are very very conversant, very, very close to what we already do on a daily basis, especially if you're a creator or something. Some definitions here, which I found in a number of places. The development is thinking, designing, programming, documentation, testing, and error correction related to the creation and maintenance of applications, frameworks, and other software components. So if you break it down like this, it's very clear that there's a lot of creation, there's a lot of thought, and maybe you could even define it as design thinking that may actually warrant some collective work, and we're going to come to that. And even though we think that it is basically the process of writing and maintaining some sort of code, but if you look at a broad perspective, it actually covers all the processes between the idea stage, I want to have something done, or by this piece of, by this piece of code, by this piece of software, and the finalization of the thing actually doing what it's supposed to do. So to be honest with you, it's actually much more than just getting in front of a computer and typing some code. It does require a lot of work beforehand and also after. So it does include some research and development, some prototyping, some updating, some re-engineering, and some maintenance, or any other activity that results in a software product. To be very honest with you, the software development, or a developer or a coder, basically is also an artist of their own, or some sort of a creator, some sort of a project manager, and they're also some sort of an analyst, where they're trying to gauge the needs of the other party so that they can actually create the software that's supposed to be created. What does a developer do then? We just call them software developer, programmer, coder, whatever we want to call it. Basically, we will have the developer will typically be analyzing the needs of the users and stakeholders, just like an analyst, so that they can develop and test and improve the software that will meet those needs. They provide advice on updating software on the customer's existing programs and systems, and they design all part of a system or an application and plan how those pieces will work together. So if you break it down like this, it's very evident that the software development is a big, cumbersome, and of course, a very difficult art to master thoroughly. And it's not only the knowledge of coding, not only the knowledge of the craft, but also some support from fellow developers must come into play if something is going to be done successfully. And how is that done? We need to start thinking about how the developer's mind works. So the flow has three stages according to one approach. It's the ideation, the creation, and the problem solving. So the ideation is when you have an idea, you want to have something done. There's an application, there's anything that is related to software development that will result in a software, where you want to gather all the ideas and concepts to become a logical structure. So you're going to decide how you're going to do it, on what platform you're going to do it, perhaps, if that's not already evident, and everything else that comes to play before you actually execute it. And the execution is the creation bit. And it's basically writing, testing, and deploying the code. And the problem solving is when you deploy it, and as developers would know, nothing works first time. If it does, then it's usually amazing. So there's a lot of correction, a lot of improvement that needs to be done before the actual product is final or anything close to final. So here, the crux of the discussion is, that the creation phase, the coding, the execution is usually conducted alone, the ideation and the problem-solving phases are usually conducted through collaboration. So the developers' cooperative and collaborative approach is the weapon in the developer's arsenal to make sure that those stages that are done collaboratively are done effectively, and then they can get better at their craft, and then they can deliver something amazing. So actually, it's such a great thing that software development is one of the most cooperative and collaborative professions out there. I've never seen anything like it in years of project management or consultancy or anything, where people are able to share and people are able to assist each other in creating something, in getting their job done. And it's no surprise that now there are global platforms through which the software developers can collaborate, help each other, ideate, and of course, problem solve. The internet has obviously accelerated it. To be honest with you, coding existed well before the internet, and there were associations, and we'll a little bit come to that, and there were communities, surprise, 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 that the problem solving and the ideation phases were tackled. So now, obviously, with the internet in our lives, we have platforms like GitHub, Stack Overflow, Dev2, and of course, some user groups that collectively solve the problems that developers are facing when they're trying to create something. And of course, there are some, even wider efforts like open source movements, some public repositories and resources that people are sharing. And of course, the community conferences and meetups that have accelerated, especially now, coding is now part of our lives inevitably. And we have the clubs and the communities. And that's the reason why developers rely on communities and community management. And Blake will love that, but the DevRel is here to stay. This is what these slides are telling us. So maybe somebody actually saw this. So I just got this from Wikipedia. This is the Homebrew Computer Club in California. So that back in 1975. The name Steve on the left-hand side on the top might actually give you some clue as to what this is all about. This is the club, the community, so to speak, where Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak met, apparently. So as you can see, it actually existed. The community management or developer communities existed well before the internet being part of our lives, and people used to get together physically. Oh, how we miss those days in these years, to get together and then basically help each other build things, and look what it led to. So I give you, without going too deep into this, I would like to give you a couple of reasons to join the developer communities. So why the developers join the communities? This is part of another presentation that I did to would-be developer community members. So this is from their own eyes. So we have the support and collaboration opportunities. Those are very much abundant in developer communities, and this is why they come in. So supporting the ideation and problem solving phases with some specific developer actions, so to speak, pair programming, some tools that are facilitating this, and of course the code reviews. Probably there are very, very few professions like developers where actually fellow developers assist and give you feedback on the work that you are doing. And you have mentorship and career development support. One of the coolest things and one of the biggest challenges in front of the developers is that some of the things that are being tackled in the development world, such as the creation of a new platform or something that was not done before, or some new language and some new capabilities that are being explored, is that there's a continuous journey to the unknown. So it's important to for the experienced developers to lead the novice developers into their roadmaps or into their career journeys. And of course, it's important to share so that the new platforms or any challenges in front of the developers in new and up and coming problems that are being solved, such as sustainability, new requirements in artificial intelligence, or some legal things that need to be figured out, especially with things like data protection that are being continuously reviewed and explored. It's important that the developers can actually get together in communities or in any platforms on their own to help each other out. So some more reasons to join the developer communities. Project and startup partnerships. You saw at the flyer, on the flyer that I actually shared with you, that one of the encounters at one of the community events, it's actually led to one of the biggest companies on the planet. So it's no strange, it's no coincidence that this is happening. There are so many interesting stories around the world where people meet in community events, and eventually they start something amazing, and then they deliver value throughout the world and just be a permanent part of our lives. Development of soft skills is something that is very, very important at this stage, where it's the developer profession doesn't allow you a lot of room to explore or to enhance your soft skills. So if you would like to enhance those skills, such as organizing and managing events, task delegation and marketing, budget management, handling conflicts with teammates, and handling disagreements well, and making sure that the project that you're working on actually moves forward. These developer communities are just golden opportunities to do that. And of course, some experiences that money cannot buy, and I will come to those in a moment. So give you some examples of some developer communities around the world. So things like GitHub, Stack Overflow, Medium Dev 2 are great platforms with communities in tow, where a lot of developers are actually helping each other, which is what the community is all about. And you have the technology vertical focused communities, such as cloud and serverless, some mobile development ones, some front end, some AI, Internet of Things, gaming, and voice applications. And of course, you have the programming language focused ones, which is the Gophers, PySlackers, PHP community, Java user groups, and .NET communities. So those are just some examples of the ones that are focused on the language. Some platform-focused ones, such as the TensorFlow, Flutter, and Firebase, and the AWS. And you have the ones which are tech-sponsored, such as the Google Developer Groups, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. You have Facebook Developer Circles. I should have updated it. They've now become Meta Developer Circles, if I remember right. So you have Microsoft Tech and Learn communities and some AWS communities. These are very successful communities around the world. And of course, you have social equality and diversity, equity, and inclusion-oriented ones. Women Techmakers, Girls Who Code, Women Who Code, Jungle Girls, which includes C++, which is a really cool community, as I'm a C++ aficionado from many, many moons ago. And then now I want to give you quickly just a snapshot of the Google Developer Community Programs. I regard my experience, not because I am biased, I maybe am a little bit, but I regard this as a very successful community program. This is in no way an advertisement of the Google Developer Community Programs, but try and take some notions, some concepts that I'm going to be talking about, and perhaps they can assist you in getting more success in the communities that you're managing or you're being part of, or you would like to start in the developer world, as the success factors here, I believe, are pretty much universal. So the developer community programs, it's been existing for some time now, which we're going to go a little bit further. So this is an event back in Turkey. Of course, this was the time where in-person events were allowed. Can you imagine? This is basically, I think it was the beginning, the March of 2020, or late February, just days and hours after this picture was taken, the world went into lockdown. So this is a very interesting, meaningful, sometimes sobering picture. I sincerely hope that we go back to this these days, but this is what the community events used to look like. Now, obviously, we're getting back into a hybrid world, but this was the way the communities were run at Google as well for a number of years. So what were these programs? They started as Google Technology User Groups in 2009 and expanded into various programs such as the GDGs, Women Techmakers, DSC, Developer Student Clubs, Developer Experts, and Accelerator programs. We love our acronyms, so there are obviously a few acronyms around there. This is the address that you can actually go to check out the different programs and some of the new ones that they're working on. But these were developed over the years, and now they are very successful. They're quite actually established programs. If you think about 2009, it's not that far away, it's not that distant, but Google was about a 10, 11-year-old company back then, and it's half the life of the company that the community has existed. So it's pretty old as far as the company is concerned. It actually started in 2009 as GDG, and Istanbul, I'm very pleased to say, was one of the first GDGs around there. And it was local community chapters aimed at professionals, grew to over 1 million members in over 100 countries. The figure is completely, is constantly changing. So I just, left it as a ballpark, but it's pretty big. And it's aimed at professionals these days, and it's independently led by self-selected organizers. So Google is deliberately staying away from the community structure and only approves the setup of a place in a local arrangement, and provides guidelines, branding, content, and event support as the brand owner, if you like, of these communities. So the official recognition perks, such as being featured on Google Blogs and invitations to events and summits, are the recognitions that are being provided to community members. And there are some yearly thematic events called DevFest, and there's a few more, which I would encourage you to attend whenever you stumble across any of them online or even in person where allowed. Women Techmakers is another facet of this community program, and it started in 2012 as an independent program to provide visibility, community, and resources for women in technology. These are local chapters led by self-selected organizers called Women Techmakers organizers, and they also have a network of ambassadors which represent this program. The program is about providing visibility, community, and resources for women in technology, whether they are technologists or they are entrepreneurs. And this is how it actually differs from many of the other community programs at Google, in the sense that it actually provides entrepreneurship support as well. So basically, this is focused on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, community and entrepreneurship, and some yearly thematic events such as International Women's Day is the yearly event to watch out for. Just checking if there was any problems in the background. There are none. And I shall continue. So another facet of this community programs is the developer student clubs. So they started in 2017 as a student-focused club initiative to enable students to solve local and global problems using technology. And these differ from location-based programs of the other programs at Google. They are university-based, and the later leads change every year, with previous leads becoming mentors of the students. So they are selected by Google following interviews, and the leads should have at least 2 years of academic life ahead of them to make sure that they contribute well to the program and, of course, to the community, so that they can serve a year as a lead and another year as a mentor. So they actually hold yearly thematic competitions such as Solution Challenge, and this year's focus was on Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So I presume that when I'm talking about these different programs, you can see that they're all trying to become a part of a bigger puzzle. and they are in a way. And the next one is the Google Developers Experts. So this is the Community Champion Program, which you may be able to find in some other branded programs, and of course in many communities. This is an important part of communities around the world, whether they are developer communities or any other brand community and so forth. As the community champions make a lot of contribution to these communities. So in Google's situation, it is a global network of highly experienced volunteer technology experts, influencers, and thought leaders who have expertise in Google technologies. How does Google select them? It is an invite-only program, so they invite people who actually fit the background, and they go through an interview with another expert, and followed by an interview with a Googler. And this is a technical interview as well as a community interview. So what the interviewers want is for someone to have the technical expertise, but also the motivation to join and to bring the community that they're going to be taking part in to a different level. So experts in turn have access to product teams, get support to participate in community events, and must continue to contribute to the developer ecosystem to keep their title. So this is not dissimilar to other community champion programs that can be examined in other communities. And we have an accelerator, so the startups are not forgotten about. It's formerly known as the Google Developer Launchpad. I hope perhaps someone actually took part in this, or they may actually know this program already. It's a regional and concept-focused startup accelerator program that provides startups and founders with access to Google technical content, network, some support such as Google Cloud credits, and Googlers and other mentors as mentors and experts. And there are some examples that you can see on the net, such as the Latin America one, the Middle East and North Africa one. And in terms of the concept focus, Google is very keen on supporting indie games, and Google Org Impact Challenge is another field that is very important, and it is supported by an accelerator of their own. So this is another part of the community programs, and these pieces, they all work hand in hand. So let's go to the home stretch. Just a few few comments on what made Google community programs successful. So these are my thoughts. By in no way, shape, or form this is a formal assessment. But having managed these programs, I feel that I have I have a good understanding as to why they have become successful, and perhaps some of the things you can take away from here and apply to your own communities, and perhaps they could be helpful too. So one of them is mileage. So all the community experts are saying the same thing. It's community is a long game, and the more mileage there is, the more experience there is, the more time is spent in the community, of course, with the community being alive and continuously supported, the more opportunity there is to understand the community best and give them what they really need to flourish, to progress in their community life cycle. So the community has been around for a long time. There are communities that have been around a much shorter time. So so for all those years, over a decade, is always some good time and a good opportunity to understand and to pivot the program to how it can be supporting the community in the best way. So the continuous support from company and existence of a multinational developer community ecosystem team with local experience, I believe that it's been an important factor. So the reason being is that we as community professionals, we just see that there is the investment into community team, or investment into, let's say, the people behind the support to communities is sometimes a cause for debate, is not enough, or it's not appropriate, or for some other reason. So Google has poured such a lot of so much resources and such a lot of focus, and of course hired a lot of people with the relevant experience, and they've been around for a long time with local experience, with community management experience. So that actually contributed very well. I think it was over 25 countries that there are people who are managing the community ecosystem for Google. And this really shows on the level of support that these million members are getting. So the independence is ingrained. This is something that people sometimes don't know, and they're surprised. Google tries to make sure that these communities are run independently and by their own organizers, and they try not to interfere with the decision-making processes. If in any community this is not followed, the results are usually, tears and some, engagement just going really down. And going hand in hand with that, it is the freedom on content and contribution. Again, this is another surprise. It was very interesting for me to see in my first days at Google managing the communities that all the other technology companies, including rivals such as AWS or Microsoft or Facebook, where now it's Meta, they were allowed to support these communities as sponsors, with speakers, as long as it is technology being talked about. So, Google was very open in welcoming these stakeholders to support the community. So this actually made the organizers and the community members who are quite comfortable, and this was one of the reasons why they were happy to explore the directions that they wanted to explore as developers. What can we learn from these communities? Again, my experience, as I've said, it's a long-term game. You need to invest in the team, in the processes, and in the communities. It's going to be very difficult to get results in the short run, because the developer communities, or any community, is comprised of people going through a journey, and sometimes that journey is long, or sometimes the progress within that journey is with a lot of hurdles, a lot of difficulties. So it's important that the communities they have an outlet for these people so that they can actually get support through this journey. So this is something that I strongly believe, again, my thought, developer communities should focus on providing members with opportunities to get better at their craft, remembering the mind of a developer community, as well as access to fellow entrepreneurs, projects, and other opportunities. Anything locked in or too focused on company goals will fail quickly. This is what I find. So branded communities are very difficult to run well. If you don't distance yourself from the brand, from what the brand represents, from the products, from the platforms, and if you don't give a fair and just platform on which the developers can actually make their own decisions and trying to force them into something, the community is very intelligent, is very they can pick up on this very quickly, and then they will desert the community, and the community will just become somewhere where there's some sort of salesy echoes, which as community managers we really don't like. And of course, if you identify the community personas well and offer something for everyone, talking about those different programs, for example, then you have a winner, because everyone can actually join the community, come in, and then they can find themselves into and then they can find themselves as a developer community professional, or would be one. Just something that I wanted to finish up with in a way. This is a bit of a digression, but if you would like to check it out, this is a study by Clary and Snyder in 1998. I don't know why we don't see this more often in developer or any community presentations. These scientists, so to speak, they just sat down to understand why would volunteers volunteer at anything. So they came up with some functions and some description of those functions. So they just said that somebody volunteers, and let's face it, a community is made out of volunteers. If you're not volunteering, then you're a contractor. So certainly there are 6 functions, and they are why anybody volunteers to take part in any volunteering work. let's call it this community in our discussion. So it's values, which is important values for them, understanding, they want to learn more about the world, enhancement, so they would like to develop psychologically through involvement in volunteering, or career aspirations, which is the bulk of, let's say, the values, the functions, usually in developer communities. Social, they would like to socialize, of course, with people like themselves. And protective, which is very interesting. So they've done something bad, and they just want to, relieve themselves from these feelings by volunteering. But they said that it's not only one; it could be just a combination of them. But this is by and large the functions or the values that people actually volunteer for. So this might be interesting if you look from the prism of the developer communities. So I leave you with just finishing up with a picture of Google I/O in 2019, again, before COVID. So hopefully we'll see these again. These are, when I talked about the experiences that money cannot buy, these were the community members that were invited by Google to I/O, which is a very important conference of the developers. And it's sold out every year. And even if you have the money as a professional, normally you have to go through a ballot process so that they can actually give you a ticket. But the community members who contribute most, they actually get invited by Google, and they meet with the product teams. And this is properly an experience that money cannot buy. So let's finish up with Margaret Whitley. There's no power for change greater than the community discovering what it cares about. Firmly believe in that. I don't think any community professional will contest this. So that's it from me. Thank you for listening. This is me on social, and this is my email address if you would like to send any thoughts, feedback on my way. Thank you for listening.
That was incredible. First of all, can you hear me now? Okay, are we good?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. That was incredible. I love that chart at the end. I thought that was so fascinating, why people would actually want to volunteer. As somebody that's kind of rallied volunteers for some of my communities as well, I always make it a point to kind of, really get to the core of why somebody is interested in volunteering and what they're hoping to get out of it, and really hold up my end of the bargain to really help them get the most out of their experience. So it's really cool to see it organized like that, and just fantastic tips all around. Thank you so much. So let's jump into and I'd love to remind folks to pop their question into the Q&A spot as well if you want to be entered into a raffle to win a gift card for lunch. But I see a few great questions in there already. So let's kick it off with Blake's question. And I see it has a lot of upvotes as well. Who were some of your all-time favorite developer community members that you worked with, and why? Do you have any interesting stories in working with them?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple. I'm trying to think of one that is most interesting. I think well, we have some especially the young people. There's a lady named there's a girl named Selin. She's now 15 years old. She's been crowned 3-4 times as the European Digital Girl of the Year, and she won like countless awards and stuff. But obviously, she's someone really special, and we're still in touch, and she's just winning all the awards under the sun, basically, because she's now doing a lot of robotic work and a lot of coding as well. My favorite one, though, is when I was doing a Google Assistant event in Izmir in southern Turkey. This was a Google Assistant coding workshop, and as we were coding, there was one gentleman in the corner of the room, just furiously typing Flutter, which is a different platform. So and I just approached and I just said, how are you doing? What's this about? What are you going to doing? Can you tell me a little bit more? And it turns out that this gentleman was I don't know if you have it if you have it in other countries as well. He was a janitor of some sort, And it turns out that he was actually working in this office, just cleaning and delivering tea and coffee and stuff. And one day he just found that he just saw this platform, there's somebody coding on Flutter, and asked the question, and he fell in love with the platform. Can you imagine falling in love with a development platform? And then he had like zero English, so everything he used Google Translate to learn Flutter, and now he has like 6 applications published on the platform. And he did say to us, you should come and do some events in our office, because in the weekends it's closed and no one obviously works there. So we have big meeting rooms, and I'll come and deliver tea for you. So this was like I just thought this was so cool. So it actually reinforces anybody can become a developer. You don't really need a degree or whatever it is. So that's my favorite one for Blake. Of course, there's many, but Blake, me and Marsha, we should do another session called Interesting Developer Community Stories.
That sounds like an event right there. That sounds incredible. And wow, what a story. That's so inspiring. I love hearing stories like that. Okay, let's see. Next question. And there's a few here from Farida and from Blake, all amazing questions. Farida asks, what was the most challenging part of leading developer communities?
Well, it's just the usual conundrum, the usual problem that we have. It's to the community you represent the company, and to the company you represent the community. So Google is very strong as a brand, so it's always difficult to assert the independence and, of course, the value that the community can actually create for the community members. So you really have to be very, very fair. You have to make sure that everything that you say is within the guidelines in a way, not because Google or XYZ company, whatever big company it is, mandates you to, but you have to be very, very just and fair to the community members. It's very important that you don't cross certain lines, whether it is personally you want the community to succeed, or you believe that the community must do something differently than they're already doing. You must let them do what they need to do, or what they set out to do. Let the river run its course. Sometimes that is difficult, but you just learn obviously very, very quickly, because again, the community is very sensitive. They're very intelligent. They just pick up very quickly if there is something that you're doing that crosses those lines. So that was challenging for me to learn. Certainly, we're all humans. We make mistakes. We learn from them, and that's the strong part of being human, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just like vulnerability and being open with your community, I think is very important as well. Great question. Question here from Jim. What are the key metrics that you value in your role, and what drives buy-in from executive leaders? So I guess like looking back at some of your past roles, what were some of those key metrics?
Fantastic. It's another, I'm spawning events as I'm speaking. So you need to have another event on developer community KPIs. So community KPIs is the thing. I follow Jono's advice, which is basically just have as few KPIs as possible to be able to tell the story. So, the minimum set of KPIs to tell a developer story. So it's very difficult to come up with KPIs. My thought is, the best ones, or the coolest KPIs are where, at the end you will have a butterfly from a caterpillar. Basically, it's when you see the story of someone, just joining the community, and with the help that they're getting from the community, they just do and become the things that they've never dreamed of. So this developer stories, I would say, or community stories are the first thing. The number of other communities and people they have helped, or the things that they've done amazingly. The number of people that participated into the IO because they earned it. But it's all about the community being able to be better than the person or the organization that they were the day before. So these are the things that I would value first, and everything else would be slightly second or third.
That's really good advice. I think, just like keep it simple and really focus on those things that are going to move the needle. Okay, let's see. Another great question here from Farida with a lot of upvotes. From your observation, how has the pandemic or going virtual affected the developer communities?
It of course it's affected everyone, just like the developer communities, and there's been a lot of thoughts and a lot of problems that came about after the pandemic. But one of the interesting things about development is that it's just like we've seen the stages. It's something that is partly done alone, and in terms of collective work, it could be done through tools, through pair programming, and it's done on a computer, this job. So that's why it really it wasn't very difficult for the developers to adapt. So this was the reason why I guess they've coped well, and some of them actually flourished. So this is what I would say. In some developer communities, there's been a lot of let's say discouragement, a lot of problems. Some of them actually shut down because they relied heavily on in-person communication. But I think developers have actually learned this very quickly and very well to adapt to the new world, use the new tools, and tools like Bevy or platforms like Bevy basically flourished in this time because people really needed these platforms. So of course we have developer specific ones. So with the advent of the platforms offering new functionalities, now obviously it's easy for the developers to talk to each other and to keep a community running.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, like you said, the platforms like Bevy, we definitely flourished over this time because community has never been more needed, especially when COVID first started and the lockdowns first hit. I think, people really needed that sense of community, and they were finding really unique ways to connect online. It's also really interesting. I found with the community that I run, accessibility was a really big thing with the shift to virtual. Previously, I was doing in-person monthly events at the Shopify offices in Toronto, and I thought they were super accessible. Like, our ticket prices were really reasonable. We had pay what you can tickets. We gave away free tickets to certain groups that were in need. The offices were wheelchair accessible. Time was like after work, really closely located to everybody. And as we shifted to virtual with COVID, I had so many people reaching out to me just on LinkedIn and through my network and saying things like, I've been following this community for the past like 3 years, and this is the first time that I've been able to attend an event for reasons like they're a new parent, and they don't have childcare during that time, or they work somewhere in the suburbs or further away from the city, and it just didn't make sense for them to come after work. So it just really opened that up a lot more.
Indeed.
And gave people
Yeah, so basically, this is another part of the pandemic that I don't really like, where the time is limited and someone might actually just barge into the room that I am in right now. If you see me putting a mask on, it's the sign of the times, people. Unfortunately, so this place is about to close off, so I shall be asking for your permission graciously to starting to get ready and disappear from your screens. But certainly. Marcia, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Always a big pleasure, anytime, really. And of course, Blake being here just made my day. And Jim, thank you for the questions, and of course, Farid as well, and everybody else who's asked the questions. If I've missed any of the messages, so thanks for making making this opportunity available for me to connect with you all and present my thoughts and the things that I found out, running developer communities.
Absolutely, and no worries at all. We're just at time anyways, and up next we're going to be jumping into the networking. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you for taking the time to connect with the community today and to share this really informative presentation and to take some of our questions. So yeah, feel free to jump anytime that you need to. But again, really huge thank you. And everybody, let's throw your favorite emojis in the chat. Let's give some clapping emojis, fire, whatever your favorite one is, just to show our appreciation.
Yeah, you'll probably notice that mine is the one with the glasses on, because it just sort of you know, that thingy. You know, I get royalties every time you use it. No, I don't. No, I wish I did.
How nice would that be? That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. But thank you again to everyone. I've really enjoyed being here. You know, and I'd love to, you know, to connect with you on social, or here, or on CMX spaces, anywhere.